Hi. Today we're going to talk about knees. Should be a short video, but it's not. Knees only do one thing. They go back. That's it. End of conversation. They don't go sideways. Don't go. That should be click. Turn off the video. But there's so much more to talk about with knees. By the way, I exfoliated and put lotion on them so you didn't have to look at 60-year-old old man kneecaps. All right. So the knee is designed to do one thing: bend and straighten. Bend back and straighten. It doesn't even go in the other direction. So technically the knee flexes and extends, but does it really extend? Because it doesn't go the other way, right? It just goes back to its original position. So same thing with my elbow, right? My arm straightens out and comes back. That's it. My elbow, I can't bend that way. I can't bend it that way. That's it. That's all it does. My shoulder goes all over the place, right? It can go in all kinds of weird angles, right? I can do all kinds of weird things with my shoulder. I can't do that with my elbow. I can do all kinds of things with my hip. I can't do that with my knees. Anything besides bending it back hurts it. The most common thing we do is go sideways through them. We do it when we're dancing, right? Oh, I'm having a great time. You're destroying your kneecap. When we get out of the car, right? Park, one leg goes out, and then do this weird sideways thing. My foot's over there. Just do it. Just do it halfway and stop. And see if you don't feel all this pain in your knee. You're supposed to turn both legs sideways and then stand up. Watch in a grocery store parking lot. See who gets out of the car the proper way. And it's probably somebody that's older or has some kind of an injury to their knee. And everybody else is just asking for that injury. All right, so it does one thing, it folds back, that's it. The classic knee injury is cleats, plant the cleat, cleats in the ground, the shoe doesn't move, but the entire athlete twists sideways, and all of a sudden stuff rips in here. Okay, so knee does one thing, goes back, that's it. End of conversation. All right, so let's think about the anatomy. Bones, you've got your femur, you've got your tibia, you got a little tiny fibia in there, and you got your kneecap, the patella, right? Patella is fancy book learning for kneecap. The kneecap is a bone, and that means it can break. It can also chip and fracture, and all those things are going to hurt. Then you got the muscles. Now, in particular, you've got two quad muscles coming down here. You got four quad muscles all together. You got one on the outside, one on the inside, and you have like a two-ply in the middle, like a double-decker in the middle. So that one kind of stops a little short, but these run onto the sides of the knee, right? Then you've got the calf muscles coming up and splitting off too. So if you were to look at the back of your knee, pretend this is my knee, I've got a calf muscle that goes this way. I've got a calf muscle that goes this way. Now the back, I have my hamstring muscles, and I have one that goes here and one that goes here. Semimembranosus, semitendinosus. You don't need to know that. But you've got these two, and they the way they split out, there's sort of semi-diamond shape here. Well, what's in that diamond? What's in that back of the kneecap? There's an artery, there's a vein, and there's two big nerves that come off of there that run off the sciatic nerve, right? Then you've got cartilage in there. And they're both kind of horseshoe shaped, right? They're both kind of horseshoe shaped, and one sits more up and down, and one sits more like that. And then the kneecap goes in top. Now, the cartilage is also called the meniscus, right? So the meniscus is a piece of cartilage. Now, cartilage is meant to be smooth and glide, right, and have this nice slick surface. But as we age, it gets rougher and rougher, and then it starts grinding, and then that grinding wears it down, and eventually there's nothing left in there, and you are bone on bone. You have people say, oh, I'm bone on bone. Well, they're bone on bone. They've got one bone against the other, and that just hurts when they bend their knee, right? Okay, so you got bone, cartilage, muscles, tendons, ligaments. Okay, one here, one here, one here, and one here, all right? So you've got an anterior, a posterior, just like your posterior, right? You got medial and lateral. I would have said distal, but they didn't consult me when they were naming it, so it's lateral. And these two keep everything from going sideways. Their job is to protect it. We're not supposed to stretch them out so that they can go sideways, because they're not designed to go sideways, and that just takes those two bones and takes them out of alignment. Now, the ones front back, right, you get this action going, right? And then there's tears in those things. You can tear them, right? All right, so you could be bone on bone. That's arthritis. You could have pain because of that sciatic nerve, right? That sciatic nerve that starts in the spine, kind of branches out in the lower back, travels around the hip, and goes down into here. So if you have sciatica from up in here, sometimes it'll cause knee pain. Then you've got 4 bursas, and they're kind of easy to remember. There's one on top, one in the middle, and one at the bottom. And then there's another one off to the side, but I can't remember whether it's inside or outside. But the bursas are supposed to help with that gliding. But this is such a large, compact joint, the largest joint in the body, and there's a lot of stuff going on. There's not a lot of extra room. So if you bang a bursa and it swells up, it's pushing into things that it doesn't have room to push into. So bursitis, inflammation of the bursa, can be painful, right? So arthritis, bursitis, sciatica, we can plant those cleats and go sideways, wind up with some kind of a tear in through here. So there's a lot that can go wrong. There's a lot that can go wrong. That's why people always get knee surgery, right? There's accidents and stuff. There's just the aging process. Knees probably should be reverse engineered, but I'm not sure who to go to on that. So we got to just sort of deal with them the way they are, at least for now. All right, so what are some things we can do to keep those knees safe? Well, you got to watch the tracking of the knees, right? The tracking of the knees. So the first thing is my knees should be directly over my feet. My knees should not be here and my feet down there somewhere. I don't know if I showed it or not. But you don't want those knees out too far, right? You don't want those knees coming in or anything like that. Now, most people, the problem is that it rotates in. And this has to do with your quad angle. So if you drew a line straight up your shin, then you took another from the outside of the pelvic girdle, and you brought those in. Those 2 lines are your angle. You make that little arch and the little degree sign, right? And that's your quad angle. The bigger your pelvic girdle is, the bigger your quad angle is, the more of the thrust in you get. So most of us tend to collapse in. A few of us are kind of naturally bow-legged, but that's the minority. So most of us start out like where we should be, but over time, the knees start collapsing in, all right? So think about you need to strengthen your quads, your hamstrings, and glute medius, boop, boop, right, either side there. So if I take my knees out of alignment, kind of knock them, and then try to squeeze my glute, I can feel it pulling it out. Can anybody tell that I haven't fed my cat in about 3-4 days, right? Complaining. So there's your quad angle. That's going to factor into that. Also, limb length. Do you have little short legs? You have big long legs. So these things factor into the function of the knees and what works best. All right, so my knee should be over my ankle, over my foot, not rotated in, and really not rotated out. But most of the time what I have to do is get people to kind of try to rotate out because they don't realize that they're in, right? So you got to take this honest look. The other thing that we do is we lock that knee back, right? Lock it back. Now it's beyond straight. It's actually a little hyperextended. There's a little bit of a curve. This is a straight leg, right? This is back. So we lock our knees back because then the bones will support us. Then that flips you get an increased lordosis, a little scoop in your lower back. So you say, oh, look at my booty. But then your belly drops down too with that. You get a nice big belly. So make sure you do not lock your knees back. Knee locking, direct route to knee replacement. Keep that softness. Develop the muscles to stand up on your own like a big boy or a big girl. Get those muscles strong enough so they can support you without knocking your knees back. All right, so there's a big controversy. Knees beyond toes, knees over ankles, knees to toes. What's the deal here? Well, pretty much the entire scientific community agrees that once your knees go beyond your toes, you can go into mechanical failure, which means you're going to rip something and the knee's going to fail. Is it going to happen the first time you do it? Maybe, maybe not. Right? Are you going to get a car accident every time you drive your car? No. But we want to protect against car accidents. We want to protect against doing that. So we do not want our knees to go beyond our toes. So what about knees over toes? Well, now you've taken it right to that limit. And once you go just a little bit more, you're begging for that fail. You're begging for that rip. So I say keep them back a little bit so you have a little wiggle room. So I'm kind of a knees over the ankle kind of guy. So when you do a squat, right, your knees should stay over your ankles. Maybe they come forward a little bit, but now I got wiggle room because I'm not pushing it to my knees over toes. And then as soon as I go a little bit beyond that, have it damage, right? So some things that factor into that. Okay, you're young, you're perfectly healthy, you have great hip mobility, you have great ankle mobility. Yes, your knees can come forward of your ankles, but not past your toes, okay? The thing is, that's not most of us, is it? Most of us have tight hips and bad ankles, okay? I'm always amazed in class when people put their legs straight in the air, how many people, the foot won't go flat, right? The foot won't go flat. I know it goes flat when they walk, otherwise they'd be doing some weird like lean back thing because they couldn't get their ankle to move that far. But it requires that 100, 200 pounds to get it flat, that 200 pounds of pressure. So you really need an ankle that can move. You also need hips that can move, right? If you're going to bring your knees forward. Because otherwise you're just compensating for those things. You got no business lifting that amount of weight or going that low or something like that. Maybe box squats instead, right? So if you've got these great hips, these great flexible ankles, and no injuries, go beyond your ankles. Don't go beyond your toes, but go beyond your ankles. But you got bad ankle mobility, tight hips, some injury in there. Why would you beg the question, right? So healthy knees are directly over the feet. We don't bring them back. You know, a lot of times when people sit, they pull their feet way back. Look at what I'm doing to my knee now, right? Look at what I'm doing to those ligaments now. So knees under the feet, knees ahead of the feet, knees in line with the ankles, not dive in. Don't sit like this, unless you don't like that ligament right there. Don't sit like this. Keep a nice alignment to your knees. You have to constantly track, and eventually becomes habit. All right. That's 12 minutes, so I guess that's long enough. Bye.